matches last night.
Can it be that at the age of 43 he'll be back next time? It's Lionel Messi.
The greatest player of his generation, in tears, holding the wrong medal. And somewhere in that Argentina dressing room sat a man who felt like it was his fault. He's not the first, he's the 8th. Every World Cup final has 3 people, a winner, a loser, and one man the losing side never forgives. This is the story of 8 of them across 32 years. And I need to warn you now, most of them didn't deserve it.
Torres away! Spain are the champions!
I played this game. I've sat in that dressing room after a final slips away. I know exactly who gets blamed in that room. So stay with me to the end, because I'm going to ask one simple question of all 8. Were any of them actually the reason their team lost? The answer starts in Pasadena, 1994, with the best player in the world and the most famous miss in history.
It's a goal!
Roberto Baggio, Italy, 1994. To understand the miss, you have to understand the man. And in the summer of 1994, Roberto Baggio wasn't just Italy's best player, he was the best player on earth. Watch what he did just to get Italy there. 2 goals against Nigeria to save them.
Is he going to get through here? Baggio! It's 1-1, and Roberto Baggio!
The winner against Spain, then both goals in the semi-final. 5 goals in 3 knockout matches.
Roberto Baggio now. Roberto Baggio! Oh, look at that!
One man dragging a nation to the final on his back. The ponytail, Il Divin Codino, the divine ponytail. But there was a problem nobody could see. He'd hurt his hamstring in that semi-final. So the man who carried Italy to the biggest match on earth walked into it half broken. The final was a war of attrition, Brazil against Italy. Nothing after 120 minutes. And for the first time in history, the World Cup would be decided by penalties. Now, here's the part the story always forgets. Baggio wasn't the first to miss. Franco Baresi missed. Massaro missed. Italy were already drowning by the time Baggio walked up. He was the 5th taker. He had to score just to keep Italy breathing. Over the bar, and then he just stood there. Didn't fall, didn't cry, just stood, head bowed, while Brazil erupted behind him. They call it the photograph of the man who died standing.
But he blazes over the bar, and Brazil sit on top of the world.
Here's what makes it cruel. Baggio was one of the greatest penalty takers who ever lived. 85% across a whole career. He almost never missed, so this wasn't a bad penalty taker failing. This was the one time the best got it wrong. On the only night it could never be forgiven. And 30 years later, it still hasn't left him. Listen to him say it himself. It affected him for years. He said he still dreams about it. That if he could erase one moment from his entire career, it would be that one. Think about that. Not a moment he was beaten. A moment his own body, his own tired legs, sent a ball 3 meters too high. So was Baggio the reason Italy lost. Baresi missed before him. Massaro missed before him. The whole team ran out of gas in the California heat. But football doesn't remember teams. It remembers the last man standing at the spot. That's not justice. That's just how we choose to remember. And this won't be the last time you see it. The best player on the pitch, becoming the one we blame. Ronaldo, Brazil, 1998. This next one isn't a miss, it's a mystery. And 28 years later, nobody has fully solved it. Paris, 1998. Brazil are the holders. And they have a 21-year-old who might be the best striker anyone has ever seen. His name is Ronaldo. 34 goals in his debut season at Inter. 4 goals already at this World Cup.
Ronaldo! Perfect start!
He is the reason Brazil are favorites. And then, on the afternoon of the final, something happens in a hotel room that no one saw coming. Ronaldo has a convulsion, a fit. His roommate, Roberto Carlos, screams for help. Teammates pile in. One of them reaches into his mouth so he doesn't swallow his tongue. The best player in the world is on the floor, shaking, hours before the biggest match of his life. They rush him to a clinic, 3 hours of tests. And when the team sheet is handed to FIFA, his name isn't on it. A striker called Edmundo starts instead. The football world is stunned. Then, an hour before kickoff, Ronaldo walks back in, and he says he's playing. Listen to what he says. He had a duty to his country. He didn't want to miss it. He felt he could play. And then this line. Obviously, it wasn't one of the best matches of his career, but he was there to fulfill his role. He was a ghost. He drifted through that final like a man half asleep. France won 3-0. Zidane scored twice with his head.
Petit. Zidane!
and Brazil's golden boy watched his own World Cup dissolve in front of him. For years, the theories flew. Some blamed Nike. Some blamed the pressure. I'm not going to repeat any of them as fact because not one has ever been proven. Here's what we know for sure. A boy had a seizure. He got up off a hospital bed and he played a World Cup final because he couldn't bear to let his country down. So was Ronaldo Brazil's worst player that night. On the pitch maybe, he gave them nothing, but he wasn't beaten by an opponent. He was beaten by his own body, and he showed up anyway. There's a word for that and it isn't worst. It's bravest. 4 years later, he'd get his revenge, and the man he'd punish for it is the next name on this list. Oliver Kahn, Germany, 2002. Some players are blamed for a final they lost. Oliver Kahn was blamed for a final he almost single-handedly reached. Yokohama, 2002. Germany against Brazil. And before the match even kicks off, Kahn is handed an award no goalkeeper had ever won. The Golden Ball, best player of the entire World Cup. The first and still one of only a handful of goalkeepers ever to win it. He'd conceded a single goal in the whole tournament. One, he was perfect. Right up until the 67th minute of the final, a routine shot from Rivaldo, and it squirms out of his gloves. Ronaldo, the ghost of Paris, is first to react. He taps it in, then he scores a second. Brazil win 2-0. Ronaldo has his redemption, and Kahn has a nightmare he'll never wake from. What people forget is that he was playing with a torn ligament in his finger. He never once used it as an excuse. And when the trophy went up, he didn't stand with his team. He sat alone against his post, one of the loneliest pictures in the history of the game. Years later, he finally spoke about carrying it.
The ball was shot on goal, I think, from Cafu, Brazilian player was. I said World Cup final, and I could not catch the ball. And then Brazil scored, and it was a few minutes later, they made and the World Cup final was lost because of my mistake.
At the time, he said it was 10 times as bitter to make a mistake in the final. But listen to where he landed years later. You are not guilty for something in a team sport. There are 11 players on the field. Today, he says, he doesn't feel guilty at all. It took him 20 years to say what this whole video is about. Best player on the planet at 5 o'clock. The reason they lost by 7. Same 11 men on that pitch, only one of them is remembered. The next man didn't make a mistake at all. He made a choice. And it might be the most famous red card in football history. Zidane, France, 2006. Everyone on this list so far was undone by a mistake. This man was undone by 10 seconds of red mist, and he was, on the night, the best player on the pitch. Berlin, 2006. France against Italy. Zinedine Zidane, playing the final match of his career. And in the 7th minute, he does something absurd. A Panenka in a World Cup final. He chips it off the bar and in with the calm of a man buying bread. Materazzi equalizes for Italy, 1-1.
Pirlo's corner, Italy, trailed by a goal.
And these two men are about to write the ending together. Extra time, the 110th minute, some words are exchanged. And then the greatest player of his generation stops, turns, and heads Marco Materazzi in the chest, straight red, and the walk. Past the trophy, close enough to touch, into the tunnel. France lost the shootout. The only man to miss his penalty was David Trezeguet, off the bar. But nobody remembers Trezeguet. They remember the headbutt. Later, Materazzi admitted what he'd said. It was about Zidane's sister. Zidane said he'd rather die than apologize to the man, but he apologized to every child watching. So was Zidane France's worst player in that final? He was their best. Golden Ball winner. Player of the tournament. He just made the worst decision of any of them. Sometimes the thing that loses you a final has nothing to do with your feet. Sometimes it's your forehead. I broke this exact moment down in another video. It's on screen now if you want the full story. But for us, Zidane proves the rule. The bigger the player, the heavier the blame.
Well, what was said was ridiculous.
Robben and De Jong, Netherlands, 2010. This final gives us two candidates. One made the worst decision. The other suffered the cruelest miss. And they were teammates. Johannesburg, 2010. Holland against Spain. And in the 28th minute, Nigel de Jong does this. Studs into the chest. A kung fu kick in a World Cup final. Most referees send him off. Howard Webb keeps him on. And it set the tone for the dirtiest final in living memory. But that's the villain. Now here's the heartbreak.
Oh, look how high the boot was. That was horrible from De Jong.
Arjen Robben threw on goal. One touch past Casillas and Holland win the World Cup. And Casillas throws out a single desperate toe. That toe is the entire difference between Robben the god and Robben the villain. Iniesta won it for Spain in the 116th minute. And Robben has carried that miss ever since. So who was Holland's worst? Be honest, Robben was one of their best players. He just had the trophy on his boot and watched a toe take it away. De Jong made the worst decision. Robben suffered the cruelest inch. Neither one lost that final alone, but football only ever remembers the man closest to the moment. The next man didn't suffer an inch. He suffered a hug, and it might be the most beautiful moment in this entire video. Gonzalo Higuaín, Argentina, 2014. Every man on this list carried his blame alone, except one, and the reason he didn't is the best thing you'll hear today. The Maracana, 2014. Argentina against Germany. And 20 minutes in, Gonzalo Higuaín gets the chance that could define his whole life.
Terrible back header into the path of Higuaín, who should have opened the scoring in the World Cup final.
A German mistake sends him clean through. Just him and Manuel Neuer, and he drags it wide. Argentina's best chance of the entire final, gone. Germany win it in extra time through Götze, and Argentina wait another 8 years for their trophy. Now, Higuaín will tell you it was harder than it looked. He was running, back turned, the ball behind him, but that's not the part of this story that matters. The part that matters happened in the dressing room. Listen to what he says. When they lost, nobody spoke to him. Some teammates looked at him with anger. He felt the guilt crushing him. And then one man walked over, Lionel Messi. He hugged him and said, "It's okay. This is football." Higuaín says if it hadn't been for Messi, he'd have carried that guilt until today. He even says Messi later went to the coach to keep him in the squad, the greatest player alive, protecting the man everyone else blamed. And this is the truth the whole world missed. Higuaín scored the goal that put Argentina in that final in the first place. Nobody remembers it. They only remember the miss. That's the disease. Messi was the cure. I dug into Messi's genius in another video. You'll see why he understood that moment better than anyone. But the last two names on this list are the freshest wounds of all. And one of them happened yesterday. Mario Mandžukić, Croatia, 2018. Some players are the villain of a final. Some are the hero. Mario Mandžukić managed to be both in the same 90 minutes. Moscow, 2018. Croatia's first ever final, a nation of 4 million people against France. And they'd earned it the hard way. 3 straight knockout games taken to extra time. 18 minutes in, Griezmann floats in a free kick, and Mandžukić gets the faintest touch into his own goal. The first own goal in the history of a World Cup final.
Flicked in by Griezmann, and flicked on! And France take the lead in the World Cup final!
Croatia are losing to a goal they scored themselves. Imagine carrying that. But Mandžukić wasn't finished, because later, he wrote the other half of his own story. 69th minute. He hunts down the French keeper, forces the mistake, and scores. From own goal to real goal in one final, villain and hero, on the same afternoon. France won 4-2, but Mandžukić gave a nation of 4 million something to stand up for. So was he Croatia's worst player? He put the ball in his own net on the biggest stage there is. And then he got up and scored at the other end. That's the whole story of being a footballer in a final. You don't get to choose which one you'll be. Some days you're both before the whistle, which brings us home to last night, to a red card, a river of tears, and the end of an era. Enzo Fernández, Argentina 2026. This one is a day old. The ink isn't dry, and it's the hardest one to talk about because it's the last chapter of a legend. New Jersey, last night, Argentina against Spain, Messi's final World Cup. And for most of that match, one man kept Argentina alive almost on his own. Spain had 20 shots, Argentina had 2, and Emiliano Martinez made 11 saves, a record for a World Cup final. Understand this before we go further. Argentina's best player last night was their goalkeeper. This was a team being battered, hanging on by their fingernails. And then, in second half stoppage time, the game tilted. Enzo Fernández, already booked, went in for a second yellow, red card. Argentina down to 10 men with all of extra time still to play. And in that extra time, Spain finally broke through. Ferran Torres, the winner. Spain, champions of the world. Now here's why Enzo is this video's final name. 4 days earlier, he was a hero. He scored the equalizer that beat England in the semi. He was electric in the comeback against Egypt. Hero on Wednesday, the name on Sunday. That's how fast this game turns. But let me be the analyst here, not the mob. Enzo did not lose that final. Spain won it. With 11 men and then against 10, they were the better team all night. 20 shots to 2. The red card didn't cause the defeat. It tipped a game Argentina were already losing. Spain were worthy champions. Say it clearly. honestly, and the man who will be blamed in Argentina was a hero 96 hours before. 11 men lost that final. History will remember one, which is exactly where we started. So let me answer the question I asked you at the very beginning. Were any of them really the reason their team lost? Let's count it honestly. Baggio had 2 teammates miss before him. Ronaldo couldn't stand up. Kahn played 180 flawless minutes. Zidane won the golden ball. Robben was denied by a toe. Higuaín scored the goal that got them there. Mandžukić scored at both ends. And Enzo went down to 10 in a game already lost. Here's what 30 years around this game taught me. Nobody loses a final alone, but everybody remembers like they did. The winners get a medal. The blamed get a lifetime. And every single man in this video was brave enough to be out there in the first place, which is more than the people mocking them have ever been. So now I want to hear from you. Which of these broke your heart the most, and which one got blamed the most unfairly? Tell me the country or club you carry and your all-time favorite player. I read every single one. If this hit you, watch my breakdown of the Zidane final next. It's the full story behind the walk you saw tonight. Subscribe if you want football told by someone who actually played it. No mockery, no mob. See you in the next one.